iiNet set to rescue Dallas Buyers Club downloaders, or is it?
There's finally an Ultra HD Blu-ray disc standard, but is it too late? Welcome to Vertical Hold, the tech show where we channel surf through the headlines in search of the big picture. I'm Adam Turner and I'm here with the scourge of the seven seas, Alex Kidman. Alex, what's new in tech?
Just prior to its Worldwide Developers Conference, Apple's announced new models of its MacBook Pro 15-inch line, as well as a reconfiguration of its 27-inch iMac. Disappointingly, there's no sign of Intel's Broadwell processors. These units will power on with Intel's slightly older Haswell architecture. Although, pleasingly, there's really no sign of an Australia tax on these units, with prices matching up quite closely to their US counterparts.
Aussie streaming video services Quickflix and Presto have struck an unexpected deal that will see Quickflix abandon its Hollywood content licensing deals. Instead, Quickflix will use Presto's content for its subscription library. Meanwhile, Quickflix will still offer pay-per-view content as well as send out movies in the post on disc.
Microsoft's renamed Windows Phone yet again, going back to the Windows Mobile moniker that it used to use all the way up to Windows Mobile 6.5. This won't be Windows Mobile and a number, however. It'll be Windows 10 Mobile, formally when it launches, in line with Microsoft's general policy of Windows 10 everywhere. At the same time, it's also announced that future OS upgrades for its mobile platforms will come direct from Microsoft, rather than from carriers.
Voltage Pictures, which is chasing Aussie pirates through the courts for downloading Dallas Buyers Club, has legal woes of its own. It faces a lawsuit over the rights to Godzilla, with representatives for the giant Japanese lizard claiming that Voltage intends to make its own Godzilla movie without acquiring the rights.
So Adam, Quickflix is hooking up with Presto, but is this a date that's going to end in disaster for Quickflix?
Oh, I think it's a date that might end in a marriage or perhaps a takeover, depending on how you want to look at it. Quickflix, of the four that are out there in Australia at the moment, you've got Netflix, you've got Presto, you've got Quickflix, you've got Stan. Quickflix was there first, but it's really struggled to get a foothold, and the others are sort of coming in on its territory. If you had to put money on which one was going to go under first, sadly it would have been Quickflix. So this is a good deal for Quickflix because it's now basically outsourced all the hassle of dealing with Hollywood to Presto. Now the good deal for Presto is they get access to all Quickflix's apps, because Quickflix has got apps for games consoles and Blu-ray players and all this stuff.
All these things that Presto basically doesn't have.
Yes, exactly. So rather than Presto having to reinvent the wheel, they get all Quickflix's apps.
Although, well, just getting back to Stan for a second, like a lot of one-night stands, it could be a bit of an expensive embarrassment for Quickflix because, to my understanding, because Stan has a shareholding by way of a complicated HBO deal, there's an issue of something like $10 million that they could be due via Foxtel were they to take over Quickflix. So there could be more to this story to run, I think.
These things always become complicated, you're right, especially in the entertainment field where everybody has a slice of everybody else, and that was maybe a defensive measure by Stan and a nice little insurance policy to make sure if they do lose out on Quickflix, they at least get some stay in the deal. So Alex, the pirate hunters have definitely got their sights set on iiNet customers. Now iiNet's come out and said that it's going to offer free legal representation to its customers accused of downloading Dallas Buyers Club. Is that right?
Well, not precisely. What iiNet's done is it's written this lengthy fact about the case, which is put up, and we should throw the link in at the bottom of the YouTube video if you're watching, so you can go and read it, because it's worth reading in full if you're in any way concerned. And what they've said is that they're looking into pro bono legal representation. They have not explicitly said, hey, we will legally represent you if you get done because you were using our services, because at the end of the day, they're still talking about defending people who may have contravened the Copyright Act. They're still talking about people who've engaged in piracy or allegedly have engaged in piracy, but obviously all of these things still have to be proven. But there's a few other interesting kind of little nuggets of ideas and pictures within that fact which are worth unpacking a bit, I think.
Yeah, what were the ones that jumped out at you?
Okay, so first of all, there's been this huge fear about what's called speculative invoicing. We've talked about this before. This is where you get hit with like $5,000 or $10,000 in upfront legal fees, or they'll take you to court. Now,
it kind of smells of standover tactics, really.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, the judge in this case actually said, look, I'm not keen on this as a straight up policy. I don't want these kinds of invoices going out. And as such, this is why, in fact, all of the documents have to go through the court before they're sent to anyone who is alleged to infringe the copyright of Dallas Buyers Club LLC.
Yeah. And iiNet saw that as a big win. To them, they said that was one of the reasons why they were fighting it, is because they didn't want that kind of thing to happen to their customers.
Absolutely, and I think that was part of the reason that they went into it. But equally speaking, they said it's a big win because they're trying to save face to an extent.
Naturally, yeah. We have to win something, yeah.
Yeah, and they're pulling on the judge's comment that in some cases the penalty applied might just be the effective retail cost of the movie. So, maybe 10 to 20 bucks or something like that. Yeah. That might be all that people are hit with. Now, having read a bit more of that ruling, they're not wrong in saying that, yes, he said that's possible. At the same time, he also indicated that punitive measures were not out of the scope of what could come. So just because iiNet said this could happen doesn't necessarily follow that it will. Yeah. The other interesting thing that they said, the judge was very, very adamant that Dallas Buyers Club was not to publicly release lists of names. They were not to, name and shame in that way. That it all still had to go through this court process. But iiNet has said that when it hands the details of its customers over to the court, which it is legally compelled to do now, it is going to privately contact each and every one of those respondents to let them know, hey, we've just handed your details over. It's also pointed out, of course, that if you just switch away from iiNet, sorry, that doesn't actually get you off the hook.
Yeah. I'm not with him anymore. You can't touch me. No, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah. Really, really doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
They've also talked up quite heavily the new code of conduct coming in. And again, we've discussed this previously, the whole 3 strikes policy and education, which I think broadly is a good thing. But even they admit that the kind of preliminary discovery that Dallas Buyers Club has been seeking here, the names, the details and so on, that's actually not prohibited under the code of conduct. The code of conduct itself is an industry guideline. Australian law is law. They are actually different things, and there's, technically speaking, there's very little to stop a Dallas Buyers Club or similar from going ahead and saying, well, actually, we want to go through this whole process. Now, again, historically, they've been a little bit loath to do so because you end up with those terrible headlines where you accuse a granny of, downloading your film and want tens of thousands of dollars. They tend to try and avoid that, but as I read it, there's actually not too much stopping them doing that under the Code of Conduct. It's just that the Code of Conduct provides a framework, and certainly were that kind of thing to go ahead, it'll probably be pointed in that direction, but it cannot be forced in that direction.
Yeah, you're right in that it's a framework, but it's a framework that it's everyone's interest to follow, because it was set up actually to make it easier for the studios to get what they want without having to go through so much hassle. So to then ignore it when it suits them kind of seems a bit counterproductive. So I think, as we've said in the past, 3 strikes seems reasonably fair as you can be. So it would be good to see if they can get a model working that is at least as consistent.
So Adam, I've just got done buying all my movies on Blu-ray again, having already bought them on DVD and having already bought them on VHS before that. And now you're telling me there's another physical format coming?
Yeah, apparently what we had is not enough. We've got to have a new one. Well, it does make sense because you've got Ultra HD.
Because Hollywood studios like charging me money for buying the same movies over and over again.
Pretty much. But you're also the sucker who pays for it, right? If you're going to own Highlander in every available format, you can't blame them for releasing them in every available format when they know you're going to hand over your money. But the reason why we're getting...
there can be only one format!
There can be only one format, but there can be only one, but you've got to have every copy of it, basically. The way it works is we've got Ultra HD TVs have been around for a couple of years. They're 4 times sharper than 1080p TVs, which were designed to do justice to Blu-ray. The problem that they had is Ultra HD movies are so damn big that they couldn't quite come up with a way to get them into your lounge room, and they were promising us in Australia for a couple of years, oh yeah, Ultra HD players are coming, they're coming. They never came. In the end, it was actually Netflix that was the first to offer Australians any decent access to Ultra HD movies. But you need a new
Not that
TV.
anyone's got the bandwidth to download them that way, but
you need a new TV to watch this, and you also need download speeds of at least 15 megabits per second, which I don't know about everybody else, but is laughable at my house. It's just not going to happen for a few years. So there was always the they were always working on a new disc format as well, and so it's been kind of finalized for a while, but now officially said, right, we've got the disc format finalized. They're calling it Ultra HD Blu-ray. The dual layer disc will hold 66 gig of data. The triple layer disc will hold 100 gig of data. They're expecting to see the first players available probably by the end of the year, so I don't think we'll see them in Australia until next year. The nice thing is that they are backwards compatible with Blu-ray and DVD, the same as your Blu-ray player is. But as you say, there's then the big question. I already own the Blues Brothers on VHS, Betamax, CD, DVD, Laserdisc, whatever else you want to come up with. Am I going to buy it again on Ultra HD, or will I just buy new movies going forward on Ultra HD? Where do you sort of draw that line in your content library, or will you just not bother and say, I think my internet's fast enough, I'll just get it through Netflix?
Yeah, well, I would have said the latter was the bigger problem that any new format faces. That, right now, within the Australian context, I could see some arguments for saying, yeah, look, 100 gig is a heck of a lot to download. I mean, even if you jump over the bridge between piracy and legitimate content, even a 100 gig legitimate download is going to take most Australian connections an awfully long time to download. I mean, far more patience than most people will have. So perhaps in that intervening period till, some point in the mythical, far off, distant future when we actually have good, reliable, world standard broadband, when that happens, then maybe a physical format won't make so much sense. But you've got to think that time gap is shrinking. Blu-ray was said for a while to be the last physical format, but it seems to have done fairly well, at least within movies, less so within TV, I think. And I don't know if that's just a matter of the way things have been shot historically, especially with there being a lot of 4:3 TV out there.
Yeah. Oh, I guess it just depends on how you like to watch your movies. But you're right, and your TV shows. But you're right that there was sort of a feeling that Blu-ray might be the last physical format. I think the smart money would probably say now that Ultra HD will be the last physical format, but you never know. The thing is that they keep coming up with formats that demand more bandwidth. And while they say it's for our viewing pleasure, it's you kind of can look at it the other way and saying it just makes it harder and harder for you to walk away and to do something else. As you say, Ultra HD then makes it harder to pirate in that kind of format, and then once we've got the internet,
harder, but I'm sure it won't be impossible.
They might come up with Ultra HD or 8K. Even 8K is the next step from 4K. Just to keep that one more step, you have to stick with us. You have to play by our game and our rules. And at one point, people will go, you know what, that's more pixels than I can actually see. I don't think I need to keep playing your game anymore.
Look, I honestly do wonder if we're not very close to that point anyway. Because once you start talking... Now, in a cinema where you are talking a truly massive screen, then yes, fine. And obviously, you can grab film because, technically speaking, for physical film, the resolution can be infinite if you want to blow it up that way. But once you start talking about 50, 60, 70, even 80-inch panels in the average home living room, you've got to start moving further and further back to get the benefit of that much resolution. And for a lot of people, they're actually going to be too close to their TV for that kind of content upscale to make a significant difference unless you do some very, very specific and careful mastering. And I suppose this is the other side of it. And we saw this with DVD, and we saw this with Blu-ray, that Hollywood can actually be really lousy at properly upscaling and upgrading its material. Quite often, it'll just throw stuff out on the new format and presume suckers will come along and buy it anyway.
You go through the forums for people who actually know about video quality, and they will say, if you're interested in this movie, you need to look for this version which was taken from this print and use this transfer, because as you say, they knock out a cheap version for $10 and sell it at the supermarket on the understanding that most people don't.
It's not even necessarily a cheap version though. I mean, to get back to Highlander, I steered clear of Highlander on DVD for absolutely ages because the full price retail version was terribly mastered.
That just about wraps it up for this episode of Vertical Hole. If you've got any feedback, hit us up via YouTube, Twitter or Facebook and let us know what you think.
Thanks for watching, and remember, if you like what you see, punch that subscribe button.